Mediocre Rumble Brothers. 2, 1.
Welcome to Mediocre Rumble Brothers. I'm Jordan, your host, and the team Corey, Edwin, and Udon. Today we'll be doing our special on Sonic Adventure 2, but before we start, please be sure to follow us on our Spotify channel and like and subscribe on our YouTube channel to stay up to date on our upcoming episodes. It really helps us out. With today's episode, I will be passing over the show to Udon. Udon, take it away.
Alrighty then. Well, this is kind of a two-part special, since the reason why we're doing Sonic Adventure 2 this month is because Sonic 3 came out, the movie, starring Shadow, and this is the first game Shadow appeared in, his origin story and all that good stuff. So I believe everyone but Jordan here saw the movie, and everyone here at least played some of the game. The movie itself would probably be easier to cover really fast. We don't really do movies, but just to talk about it, since that's what inspired this whole entire thing to begin with. And we'll just talk about it casually. I'm not going to have a whole bunch of questions about the movie, but just bring up anything you found was interesting. I thought the movie was fine. I prefer Sonic 2 to this one, and that's kind of saying something because I'm a huge Shadow fan. But I was an edgelord in high school. But I think the biggest problem with this movie is that it has too much Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey, fantastic Eggman. Like, I love him playing Eggman, but now there's fucking two of him, with him playing Gerald Robotnik as well, and each one of those scenes went on about 2 or 3 minutes longer than they needed to be. Like, they had so much Jim Carrey just acting like a psychopath, and keeping it in moderation in the first two movies made it special. It's literally like too much of a good thing, and I kind of got sick of seeing it near the end of the movie. It was just too much Jim Carrey. It was probably my biggest problem with the movie. It is not. I mean, it's not Sonic Adventure 2 in the story, obviously, because they've already dug themselves a hole with their like Sonic movie stories. Essentially, him being in this, in our world with his real life family and shit like that. It's obviously inspired by, because there's several references not only to Sonic Adventure 2 but to Shadow the Hedgehog and a couple other things around the movie. Overall plot was fine. The pacing, I think I broke my neck within the first 5 minutes of the movie because how fast we were going through everything. Like, things are like every snap of your fingers, every other scene, we were just moving and moving, keep going, moving, gotta get to the main point. And I was like, God damn! I was like, this movie's moving 100 miles an hour.
Gotta go fast.
Only like they really stuck. But then like halfway through the movie, it slowed down finally to like have us like digest everything. I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys! And of course, in like the first 10 minutes of the movie, they take a metal baseball bat and sneak up behind you and crack your skull open with the message immediately. When Sonic goes into his they like find the home he was like a little hole in the ground he was in the first movie, and the actor who plays Tom, which is basically Sonic's quote unquote dad, I guess, might as well look directly in the camera and said, "Loss is hard. Don't turn evil when bad things happen to you." Like, I was just like, cool, that's gonna come up later. Obviously, it's like, don't get me wrong, it's Sonic. I don't expect to have like a huge underlying story or anything, but I was like, God damn, you literally spelled out the entire message of the movie within 5 minutes, like word for word. Not Sonic. Shadow's introduction was pretty cool. I like Keanu Reeves as Shadow. It worked out really well. There were some good jokes in the movie. They could have held back on how rapid fire they were with the jokes, but at least, unlike the MCU, I found at least half of them funny. The initial fight scene with all of them meeting Shadow was really cool, and like all the references, especially really, I like the subtle references they put in this movie. So when Sonic and Knuckles and Tails all jump out of the helicopter when they're going to, confront Shadow for the first time, what Sonic says when he's like, "Man, this flight sucks. No in-flight food or movies. I'm out of here." That's what he says at the beginning of Sonic Adventure 2, and he says it in the movie too before he jumps out of the helicopter, like he jumped out of the helicopter in the game. I thought that was cool. That's a fun reference. As they're falling down, Sonic and Knuckles latch on. Like, Sonic latches onto Tails' feet, and Knuckles latches onto Sonic's he uses little propeller tails to slow their descent, which is the same exact formation they take in Sonic Heroes. It was really small, and it's only on the screen for half a second, but there's no way that wasn't intentional. I thought that was cool. what I also thought was neat is that at the end of the fight with Shadow, when Sonic falls in front of Shadow, that is literally almost a shot-for-shot remake of the CG portion of Shadow the Hedgehog, like the initial opening movie when Sonic is on his knees and falls over with Shadow behind him. Again, thought it was cool. Obviously, the big reference is Shadow on the motorcycle with the gun. Obviously,
with the
referencing
gun. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised to see that. Honestly, I was like, oh, they actually.
Well, it's all goofy sci-fi guns. They don't look real.
Yeah, but like the fact that they gave him like the motorcycle gun, I was like, oh, we're gonna do this. I mean, they may as well dial it in, right? So like there was a lot of those types of things.
Yeah, and so that was fun. More other references again when Shadow's with Maria, when she's playing on the guitar, she was strumming the tune of All of Me, which was Shadow's theme song in Shadow the Hedgehog. As far as Shadow's relationship with Maria goes in this compared to how it is in the games, I don't really care for it. It's not terrible, but one thing, I don't know who the fuck they had to cast for that Maria actor, but she looked like, I don't know, she looked way too old to be playing that role, like whoever she was. She wasn't a bad actress, I guess, but I don't know, she looked way too old to play a girl who's supposed to be like, I don't know, between 10 and 13, I think.
It's weird because Maria's character model is also kind of strange, like, because like they clearly do not look like each other. No. I know that they're the same character, but it's like Maria looks like a full-grown scientist in Sonic Adventure 2, but all of the human models look kind of weird in Sonic Adventure anyways, so it's kind of really hard to kind of typecast.
And they do try and reference that Maria because at one of the shots, the Maria in the movie has like a blue dress on. That's just a small thing as far as the actress's age goes. I don't know how old she is, but I don't know. She just seemed too old for the role. I'm not. Let me. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Jordan.
Sorry, just letting you guys know the voice actor for her is Alila Brown. She's 14 years old.
Really? Looks really old for her age. Then never mind. I guess they cast it right. It's just in the face. I don't know. She just looks older, but whatever. Anyways, lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
Oh no, it's fine.
No.
I'm not a Sonic historian by any means. I'm just going off of what I've seen. From what I understand in the games, how they meet is that they're on the space colony arc, and Gerald Robotnik is trying to. He's both making a weapon for Gun, but also trying to cure Maria of what is essentially AIDS within the Sonic universe. Like she has a terminal illness essentially, and is using Shadow to help cure her, like cultivate a cure within him being the quote-unquote ultimate life form and using that to cure her. Huh?
No, I was saying the ultimate life form, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously because that makes the both of them linked, so they would obviously come in contact with each other running tests and stuff like that in that scenario. That makes sense. In the movie, she's just Gerald Robotnik's granddaughter, and she's just there in a top secret military base for no reason other than just being there. And I'm just
she kind of carries a box in that says Maria's stuff, and they're like, your room's down the hall, don't watch your skates kind of thing. And then she meets Shadow, and then they kind of just become like friends.
Yeah, so they just meet each other. I'm like, why would you let the girl in the base? Number one, who the fuck was guarding that door with the the demon hedgehog from outer space in it? And number two, who would let them like interact at all? There's no reason for them to. Where in the games there is a reason.
So brought Shadow's guard down so they can put more tests on him without him fighting.
Yeah, if we wanted to look into it on to explain away that, then I would probably agree, Edwin, with the turns out he's not a psychopath when she's around, so let's just let that happen. But I mean, that's an excuse more than
there's literally
how it actually worked. But
there's zero.
We got an on-screen death, which surprised me.
Maria did die. It's not in the same context. The context is a little different. In fact, the context is more confusing than it is in the games, which is saying a lot. But so they meet. Maria is Shadow's only friend. Eventually the military busts in because I guess there was an accident that Gerald Robotnik was a fault of, and that means they were coming in and arresting everyone, and then someone accidentally shot the red barrel and it exploded next to them as they were fleeing. which killed Maria, which again, she dies in the regular lore, but she's just more directly shot and it's on purpose rather than it being basically an accident. So their relationship, well established, isn't as founded as it is in the games, but again, shrug, whatever, it's Sonic. It just still brings the movie down a little bit. So the Sonic team gets their asses handed to them by Shadow. Shadow meets up with Gerald Robotnik, which again is a difference from the games, because in the games Gerald Robotnik's already dead. Gerald Robotnik is just a character in this, also played by Jim Carrey, who's influencing Shadow to do what he wants.
He teams up. He's just a program protocol, right? In Adventure.
Yeah, he's just a recording. Like, he's already dead.
So in Adventure, down in his prison cell is like what it seemed like in that short clip, because it's like the captain during like the end of the video, the captain's like ready, and then it's like you can hear guns moving around. I was like, are they going to shoot? It just seems like they shot him dead in his cell because he was tied up.
Yeah, it was pretty pretty intense for a Sonic thing, honestly.
There was a lot of stuff in this movie where I was like,
But the difference being is that in the movie, Gerald Robotnik is clearly the villain, where he's just influencing Shadow. In the game, Shadow is 100% the villain, because he's misremembering things, and everything is being orchestrated by him, and he's actually the one controlling Eggman, whereas opposed Gerald is controlling Eggman and Sonic in the movie. But anyway, so Sonic and friends meet up they go to the Chow Garden, which I'm like, a couple things. I could imagine something like this existing in Japan, which yes, they're in Japan for the first part of the movie. However, which also canonically Pokemon is just a thing in the Sonic universe, apparently. It's a weird joke to make, but whatever.
It's the same way. Like some internet memes where it's just like making fun that Sonic, because there were like memes where Ash sees Sonic, goes like, "Hey, it's a Pokemon." It's like, I'm not a Pokemon. I'm Sonic the Hedgehog.
To be fair, they did show the initial sketch of Sonic in the first movie, so the internet does exist in that franchise.
Well, the internet does exist, but that's their own meme. They just straight up just said Tails looked like Pikachu, and then like had a joke about it for like 30 seconds. It just hits me the same way when I watch Jujutsu Kaisen and Gojo's just like, oh, so it's like when Agumon digivolves into Greymon. I'm like, so Digimon is just a thing in Jujutsu Kaisen universe. Anyways, just makes you ask questions is all. So in the Chow Guard, which here's the thing. So getting back to what I was saying, I can imagine this thing existing in Japan. I really can. But this was just such a forced, weird way to have the Chow Garden in the movie. I don't care if there was
make it make sense, honestly, but at the same time,
you don't have to have it at all. You don't have to have it at all. And here's the thing: you could have easily set it up to where just like there was some scene where just a bunch of like Japanese kids or whatever just have like keychains of look Chow looking things or something. But again, this is like reference, and instead of like the reference whisperer, it's like the reference semi truck hitting you on the side of the road. I'm just like, God damn. Then the general or whatever of the army just meets them in this like mascot cafe, I guess.
I thought that was kind of funny. I mean, this is where we're gonna have our top secret meeting.
I guess it's funny. I just found it stupid, but I was like, all right, this doesn't make any sense, but whatever. Again, so then Eggman's mechs burst in, kill the general somehow. I'm pretty sure he just died of old age, because I don't see how he could have died there. Gives Sonic one of two keys to what is essentially a nuclear bomb, because he's like, I trust the mutant hedgehog more than anyone else in my organization to have this. I'm just like, okay.
I think it would have been much funnier if they had their meeting at an Olive Garden. They gave them the gift card.
That would have been a callback.
Well, they gave them the gift card to go there. So
they make a whole. Sense. There's a whole joke about that in the first movie with Olive Garden, so that would have made more sense. Actually, they might have had to rewrite it because I don't know if Olive Garden exists in Japan.
Well, it'd be funny because like
I think it was all you can eat breadsticks.
But either way, it's a joke.
So Sonic takes that, and then they just leave his body there, because the other, which is this, by the way, this is Gun, this whole organization, which again is the organization in the game that was chasing after Sonic because he was being mistaken for Shadow. But instead of Sonic being mistaken for Shadow in the movie, like she just misinterprets this stupid ass picture as Sonic just decided to steal the nuclear launch codes essentially. And I'm just like, okay, that's a bit of a stretch, lady, but whatever. So then Sonic goes to Eggman wondering why mechs are attacking them. Eggman's like, I didn't do it. I'm going to track down who did it. And then Sonic and Eggman team up for all of like 10 minutes, and then they go to where they was tracked down. Shadow ties them all up. Geralt finds Eggman. They team up and basically like, hey, let's take over the world. And they're like, he's like, bet. And so they team up. They leave them there. They almost kill them. They escape. Aside from that, I'm just like, I think the rest of the movie from there to like more of the client, because now Sonic's going through this thing where he's like, well, now I have to get my parents involved for some reason because we have to have these actors do something in the movie. So they recruit them to infiltrate Gun headquarters, and they go through this whole segment, which, by the way, the fucking dancing segment with the Eggmans in the laser room, I'm just like, please, you could have cut that entire scene out of the movie. It's so unnecessary. Or at the very least, like, cut it down to, like, a 20, 30-second joke, not something that goes on for, like, 3 minutes. That was so aggravating to watch. But the Eggmans are also infiltrating there, or I guess the Robotniks is more correct, are also infiltrating the Gun headquarters because they just decided to not have Shadow do it because reasons. They don't really have a reason because the script knows it's stupid not to send Shadow in there immediately because he could do the job. So they just do it because the script said they had to. They go through all that. Tom, again, Sonic's dad, basically gets punched by Shadow because he got the other half of the launch codes, essentially. And so Sonic's like, you hurt my dad. It's like, I lost. He gets sent to the hospital. He's not going to die. No one in that movie thought he was going to die. But Sonic's pissed off now, which sends him on Shadow's arc because he's lost someone and he's going to be a bad guy now and be a dick. So basically, he takes the Master Emerald, turns into Super Sonic, and now the Eggman, the Robotniks have launched Arc, which in this universe, Arc isn't like a colony. Arc is just basically a super weapon, just period. And are going to blow up the world, but Eggman thinks it's just going to blow up a little bit, but Geralt, which I give them credit for this, because I actually forgot this plot point in Sonic Adventure 2, where Geralt was like, actually evil and was going to blow up the entire world because he lost Maria, which I actually forgot about that until I replayed Adventure 2 for today. So that keeping that in the movie where that was his plan all along, congratulations. That is almost a 1-for-1 thing that they took from the game. Good job.
And the layout of the interior of that arc.
Yeah, it was very visually similar, but it was also very much smaller than the arc. Because again, it's not a colony; it's just basically like one room in a giant.
And minus the bullshit monster. But yeah, we'll keep with the movie for now.
Yeah, so then Sonic and Shadow fight. Sonic beats Shadow, which stupid and lame. Shadow should have won. But Shadow's like, do it, finish me. And Sonic's like, wait, no, I don't kill people. I'm doing what you did. And then they have a heart-to-heart, and then Shadow becomes a good guy. Then they charge at the space station, and Eggman realizes that Ivo... Or no, he's Ivo, fucking Geralt, Jesus. Eggman realizes that Geralt is actually going to just destroy the entire world, and them included, so he's against them now, and they have this really stupid fight scene with bad CGI that I didn't want to watch, and no one wanted to watch. It's very dumb. Again, it's just too much Jim Carrey in this movie, man. Just all his scenes could have been cut down by a few minutes, and it would have been better. You could have crammed in more like serious moments and more like story or something, man. It just seems so much wasted space with Jim Carrey, and I love Jim Carrey. I love him as Eggman. There's just too much.
He's being paid $5 million or something like that. So
I'm sure.
To be fair, Sonic's voice actor was $500,000. He was the lowest paid. He must have merch.
He must like Sonic, and good on him, because I think he's a good Sonic.
Yeah, he does a really good job, honestly. But yeah, fucking Keanu Reeves got $12 million to be Shadow.
He's Keanu Reeves. He's just paying to be Keanu Reeves. Which also, good voice acting, but I could have closed my eyes and anything Shadow could have said. I'm like, yes, Johnny Silverhand.
Yeah.
But so Shadow and Sonic team up and they take down Ivo, and one of the really funny parts of the movie where they just vaporize him essentially. That
Oh
was really
yeah,
funny.
he was a good. Was it like bug zapper or something?
Well, they 1,000 years of death to him in the asshole, and he goes into the reactor and just poof
Yeah.
away. He just dies. I'm like, okay,
That was a
was
crazy
funny.
They just literally kill this guy on screen, and I was like, oh, okay,
Away.
that's what we're doing.
I just thought that was so funny. Just poof, he's gone. Like, it was fucking hilarious.
I did find it a little weird, just like that he was basically vaporized by the chaos energy.
Chaos energy.
Meanwhile, Maria was not vaporized; she was just killed in like an explosion.
Yeah, that was
of the
condensed.
same
It
energy.
was condensed. This was raw. They weren't. It wasn't them not understanding how their own world worked. Edwin, don't ask questions. Enjoy the movie. That's how they want you to consume it. Oh, and another small reference that I liked is that when Eggman's minion, who I can never remember the guy's name because he's not a thing in the
Stone?
games. Huh?
Stone.
Well, I like him as a character. I don't understand why he likes the Doctor so much, but when he calls him and he's on the Ark, his ringtone is the first couple seconds of Eggman's theme from Sonic Adventure 2. So again, cute little reference that you wouldn't know unless you've seen it. So they beat Gerald, but the Space Colony Arc is just going to explode anyways, and they have to move it out of the way. And kind of really similarly to Adventure 2, where instead of it just exploding in space, it was going to crash into the planet. But Shadow basically pushes it away, and Eggman, and unlike the game, Eggman stays on it to like stabilize it long enough for Shadow to push it away from Earth. And as far as, I mean, they could come up with some bullshit, but I'm pretty sure this might be the end of Eggman, especially from the mid-credits scene, because they have a new villain to work with. But essentially, at the end of the movie, Shadow and Eggman die, quote unquote, and everything goes back to normal. Essentially, congratulations, everyone high fives. Movie done. Mid-credit scene, we have Metal Sonic, which I called ever since I saw the preview trailers for this movie.
Awesome.
Metal Sonic's going to be the next antagonist, and then we also saw Amy Rose at the end of the preview. She doesn't speak or anything, but it's Amy. Apparently, though, there was an end credit scene that I had missed, because typically when the lights go on in the theaters when I leave, but there is an end credit scene. From what I understand, I have no proof of it. From what I understand, there is an end credit scene that confirms Shadow is alive, so I didn't really think they'd kill Shadow off. So, okay, there we go, confirmation. So Shadow's Shadow's still around. Which I can't imagine they were going to get rid of him. They could get rid of Eggman. It's kind of weird, but they can't have Jim Carrey forever because he's expensive. And quite frankly, like I said, after this movie, I don't really want to see him again. Or if he comes back, much smaller chunk of the movie. I don't know where they're going with it. I knew they were going to do Metal Sonic next. Weird kind of Metal Sonic because there's like a ton of them. And unlike this movie, Amy Rose is not enough to like draw a draw, even though Jesus Christ, this one teenager in front of me, she was ecstatic. She saw Amy and she started screaming. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, you mean Angie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, Jesus Christ, calm down. It's Amy Rose.
Angie was losing it. And oddly enough, the theater that we were in was actually like losing it through the whole movie. Like when the Supersonic and Shadow scene like happened and like Shadow blocked Sonic, the whole theater erupted. Like people were just geeking out pretty hard, which is actually kind of neat, honestly. To be in like that experience, but
yeah, my experience was not that. It was mostly kids in my theater, and they were just laughing at the jokes. I think my group of friends there were the only ones
people
there.
Fuck yeah, like in a Sonic movie, it's like, oh, there was some kids there, but like there was a lot of grown folks there that were like wearing black and red or just like had their Sonic shit on.
I wanted to wear my team shirt, but it had a hole in it. I had to fix it. I couldn't wear my Shadow shirt, and I was so sad.
But Amy shows up and Angie's just losing her shit, and like everybody was just kind of like really excited. Like they played the song "Live and Learn," and people were singing along, and it's like, oh man, like it was a pretty fun experience, like to be in a theater with that again, because I haven't seen that in a while. I think last time I was
Sonic
in a theater
fan base
stuff like that was
psychos.
I think the first Avengers movie, I went to a theater and like people were all dressed up as like the Avengers and shit, and then they were like cheering for like some of the fights and whatnot. So it's kind of fun, like being, and then like nobody's mad about it, so it's not like, hey, shut up, I'm watching the movie. It's just like a fun movie experience. So like also to get that out here, I was kind of surprised, honestly. I thought it would be a little bit more like mellow, but
Now, mine was
kind of
mellow
fun.
as fuck. Like, quite frankly, you would have imagined no one liked the movie.
Yeah, because
The only time people lost their shit was that one teenager at the end screaming her head off because Amy Rose, for some reason, was on the screen.
yeah, no, when Shadow blocked Sonic, the whole theater just lost their shit. And I was like, oh,
It
this is
was a
pretty
cool
fucking
scene.
cool.
Their like super fight was dope.
Yeah. And then
So
they did
that
that jump scene where like both of them are going after the Ark, and like that's from like Adventure
yeah, it's from
2.
the game. Yeah, more
Yeah.
references. Very good. They're gonna have to change Amy Rose because, as far as I
Is the
know,
idiot in the game?
Well, Amy's not a character in Sonic lore. Amy's just the fucking person who chases Sonic around. Like, as far as I know, she still doesn't have a character in current whatever you would consider Sonic lore. Again, not a historian, could be wrong, but they're gonna have to change her. I hope she's not too girl bossy, but I would like her to have a character, and it shouldn't be just chasing after Sonic for whatever fucking reason. But the next movie's probably gonna have to have more than just Amy Rose to carry the same kind of like to have
It
people come
seems
back.
it seems like they might be making a Sonic X approach, like from the adventure games, because I mean, Sonic Adventure 2 is the last one, so it's like, well, where do we go from here? So, like,
Well,
are they
I
actually
mean,
going to do a
technically
Colors or
speaking, Sonic
Heroes
Heroes.
or Sonic and the
Well,
Black Knight?
here's the thing. Here's the thing. It could be their spin on what is essentially Heroes. It could be too much, but what my prediction would be was that since it's Metal Sonic and Metal Sonic's the main antagonist of Heroes, and obviously Metal Sonic's the new antagonist of the next movie, you add in Amy Rose, and since Shadow is still alive, you could pull the trigger on Rouge the Bat and E123 Omega, and then you could basically have Team Hero, Team Dark plus Amy. I don't know if that'd be too many characters. Depends on the run time of the movie, and then you could just work with because you're still missing Team Chaotix in its entirety if you do that. But that's way too many characters for one movie.
It'd be like the Expendables.
Yeah, it really kind of depends on how they're going to approach this. If they want to go, we're still participating in real world activities, or if they're actually going to go back to.
Well, they seem
like,
to be
the end of
going
the
away
world.
from it, right? Because
Yeah.
this was a lot of Sonic and Friends, the movie, essentially. Like they did not really the only human that got a lot of screen time was Jim Carrey as Eggman. That was about it.
Yeah.
Because even the two main, parent actors, they basically had to make up a reason why they needed to be involved in the plot in order for them to be in it for more than 5 minutes. But overall, I thought the movie was good. It's a thumbs up. I prefer Sonic 2 overall as like an experience. Like I said, mainly because too much Jim Carrey. But it's a pretty good movie. I'd give it like 7 out of 10, maybe 6, 7 out of 10, something like that. Because it has plenty of flaws. The references are fun, but references don't earn you points in my book. It's just fun.
I think I can appreciate the like quality of the third movie, because it's like usually stuff starts to die off, and like it might trail a little bit, but like for Sonic to survive this long after what could have been an absolute dog shit show of the first movie with the original character design, it's like I think we're on a good timeline because
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we changed the
like
character design and we got a pretty solid Sonic like movie set, which Sonic's up 3 movies now and Mario only has 1. And
yeah, but Mario only
I
needed
would
the one.
say, yeah, well, I'm curious on how that's going to go. But what I'm most curious about is this weekend was Sonic 3 versus Mufasa, and I am very curious on how this plays out, because Mufasa is a Lion King prequel that no one really asked for. Take with that what you will. There were people that were at the theater to see that movie wearing their Lion King shirts, but I'm really thinking that Sonic beat
I
them
didn't
in the
see
box
anyone
office.
going to see Lion King at my theater. Like, no,
Now,
everyone
we
was
had to go to AMC, by the way. So, like, there's 2 theaters near us, and usually we like to go to Golden Ticket for a couple of reasons. Nobody goes there, and the food is much better. And nobody going there doesn't mean it's a bad theater. I just think people forgot it opened because it's kind of like at the edge of town. So I will drive 25 minutes to go to this theater instead of the 15 to get to AMC. Just so that I have like a theater to myself. Or I watched the Lord of the Rings animated movie there, but there were no seats to see Sonic opening weekend at that theater, so we had to go to AMC. And so, like, getting to see a larger crowd at the movie theaters, and clearly the other one had a large crowd too. So I'm assuming it did very well.
It seems to be. Like I said, my theater is very small because again, I live in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. It's called the Marquee. It's literally, I think it's the only one in existence. It's not even a part of a chain. I could go to an AMC, but it's farther away from me and across bridge, and I don't want to get there. Um, and everyone, I don't think anyone there was for Lion King. Everyone was for Sonic.
Yeah.
All of them.
But it was a good setup. I mean, the entire reason why we're doing this is because this movie was coming out, and I'm glad that we actually got to see it before, like also playing. We saw it after playing the game for some of us, or during playing the game. But it's kind of been a very Sonic week for me,
yeah. So
which
with
has
that,
never been a week for me at all.
So with that, we can get into the game proper. As I already referenced a couple things that happened in the game, and again, this is more we're turning these into more overviews now. So it's going to be a lot just more general discussion. So Sonic Adventure 2, very nostalgic game for me. I played it originally as Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on the Gamecube, which is basically the definitive version of the game. Unfortunately, I was not able to get another copy of that, so what I played it on was basically what they had on the download store on the Xbox Series X, which is just Sonic Adventure 2. You have to buy the DLC for the battle stuff, but whatever. And Sonic Adventure 2 is probably one of my first Sonic games, if I remember correctly. I remember it fondly, but I also know that the game sucks. I remember it fondly for different reasons, and I have a theory why most people do remember this game fondly, because I'm glad I replayed it, because I was reminded of a bunch of bullshit I trauma blocked out of my brain about the game. But so it's kind of it's a similar setup. The whole point of this game is that we introduce Shadow the Hedgehog, and it still has a space colony arc, still has Geralt Robotnik trying to blow up the planet, right? So in the game, we have a choice between the hero story and the dark story. And what's cool is that you play as a bunch of different characters. You play as Sonic, you play as Tails, and you play as Knuckles on the hero side. On the dark side, you play as Shadow, you play as Rouge, and you play as Eggman. They have they're parallel characters because Sonic is Shadow, Tails is Eggman, and Rouge is Knuckles and stuff like that. They all have similar-ish gameplay and styles of gameplay. And you have to beat both of these stories to unlock the final story, which completes the game, essentially. And then you have the Chow Garden in the background, but that'll be its own thing. So typically you're supposed to play the hero side first, and you will get different story because depending on who you play, because hero is quote unquote the easier part of the game. The dark side is supposed to have harder missions technically. So you're supposed to play hero first, and then you play the dark side to see basically the villain's perspective on everything that's happening, which is neat. And then you have them coming together in the final story. So in the beginning of the game, Sonic is basically arrested by Gunn because he's being mistaken for Shadow, who's going around causing chaos with his Chaos Emerald, and stealing Chaos Emeralds for whatever reason we don't know yet. And Sonic basically breaks away from the Gunn in this helicopter and surfboards on a sheet of metal through what is essentially Los Angeles, and to the fucking song "Escape from the City," which is fantastic. This game has absolutely banger music, like all the way through. The game has fantastic music. It's very, very loud music, but it's good music. So you have a Sonic stage, and Sonic stages are a lot like obviously this is 3D Sonic rendition where there's some speedy segments, platforming segments, and a lot of enemies to kill. It's all right, but the Shadow and Sonic sections are probably the best portions about these games. Tails' portion, he uses this mech walker thing, which his portions are very slow, a lot more about just shooting a bunch of stuff, and the platforming is probably the worst in those sections because controlling the mech is very clunky. And then Knuckle and Rouge's segments are basically treasure hunting things where you play basically, hot and cold with certain objects, and you have to go around this like big map finding some item, and the closer you are to it, you have a radar start going, beep, 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 and closer you get beep, 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 and you find 3 items, and you do the stage that way. So we'll start there to begin with, because there's a lot to say about the gameplay of the game, because the story is not deep, and everything else is just peripheral. So the big thing about the game is the gameplay. So overall, with the gameplay, how did you feel about Sonic and Shadow segments, how you feel about the Eggman and Tails segments, and how you feel about the Rouge and Knuckles segments? For me personally, I think the Sonic and Shadow sections are the most well designed. They are the most straightforward. They have their bad parts, but I think everyone has their bad parts. Anything having to do with Space Colony arc in the end game is all terrible. Doesn't matter who you're playing as; they all suck. Anytime when you get into space, the game goes downhill. But they're the most well designed and the fastest. Eggman and Tails' missions are very frustrating because the mechs are very clunky to control. They slide off of things constantly. They are very hard to turn. Locking on with your little missile launcher is aggravating. The boss battles with them are aggravating. The Knuckles and Rouge's segments, I know a lot of people don't like them. I actually kind of like them. Again, I don't like the space missions, but all the missions leading up to them, I actually like. I think it's just because they change every time the locations of the items. So every time you play a mission, it's different. Until eventually, you see all the locations for everything. But it's a little bit of puzzle solvey stuff, and you just go around vibing to the music. Especially Knuckles' music is the best music in the game. Pumpkin Hill OG. But I think they're pretty decent, with the worst being the mech suits. However, the one real villain of this game that presides over all sections of gameplay and over the entire game that makes everything worse is the camera. The camera in this game is awful. The camera just does what it wants. It tries to stay behind the character, but on certain areas, they decided they wanted a fixed camera angle, and you have quote unquote control over the camera where you can move the camera if you're standing still, but as soon as you start moving, it flips back to where it was. So you really can't look around, and there are leaps of faith in this game which are awful. If the camera was fixed, a lot of the issues with this game would be mitigated. It still would not make it perfect, not by a long shot, but the camera by itself causes so many issues with dumb deaths, jumping into something you couldn't see, or platforming that's difficult because the camera's at a dumb angle and you can't fix it, or you just can't see what's happening, or the camera just has a seizure and spins around you or something, or doesn't know what to do when you get close to a wall. But yeah, that's the worst. That's the gameplay in a nutshell. So, Jordan, how do you feel about the gameplay of the game?
The gameplay, I could say that, yeah, they have three different types of styles to it. One being just the crazy running around in the open world kind of, but it's still on a track. As if you are a Sonic, you're going through a very huge open place. And I know that that's probably there had to be a giant open map that they had to make because, of course, you're traversing so much level in such a quick amount of time. And you're just seeing everything flowing past you. So it's just a lot of stuff going on. So, I mean, it is fun. I could definitely say, there are things that I do hate about it. There are parts when you're immediately going at such a high speed, and then immediately it just stops, and then you're trying to immediately get your character to lock on and hit a character to keep persuading forward up a level or down a level or whatever, crossing water, because the dude can't swim to save his life, so he just dies immediately, sinks like a rock. So it's you do deal with a little bit of pains here and there, but I mean, it wasn't bad because for me, there was good music in it. I mean, like you said, there is good music through the entire game. That I didn't beat the entire game, unfortunately, but the ones that I played and what I've watched was actually pretty damn good music, especially Knuckles' level. It keeps you going, even though you get a little bit frustrated with what's going on, since again there are parts with those angles are pretty damn rough, but it does make itself change a little bit here and there depending upon what you're doing. As you're first starting out, it sounds simple, but then it starts to get a little bit more difficult as you're going through. But it's really just it's intense, and I do like that about it. It's something that I'm not usually used to. Usually slow-paced games where you're walking around and you're going at a normal pace. This is way beyond that. This is next level shit. So for me to just immediately pick up this game and start playing, it took me a minute to get my brain to realize what the fuck is going on because it's going so fast. And then once you're done with all of that, then you're dealing with your Knuckles or your Tails side. And the Knuckles side for me, I wasn't really getting into much. I'm not into having to look for shit all the time. And now that I found out that there are more than just the red, yellow, green, yellow, red, there is that exclamation point that I now know of. So I'll remember that next time. But just trying to find shit is just it was killing me. I'm not into that at all. But the music, I would enjoy to just put the game down and just listen to that while I'm just either drawing or just doing something, because the music is fucking good. And then after that, the Tails side of it was a really cheap version of Armored Core to me. Like you got this machine and you're just going through a very small level, and yeah, you're just locking on to shit, and it's got that bing, 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 bing. Even when you're like not locking on to something, you're still hearing the bing, bing, bing. And then somebody next to you is telling you, "Is like, is that your phone?" And you're like, "It's the game. It's not the game. It's not me." It's just the design. Sorry, that's what they did. So it kind of like releases that stress from the Sonic or the Knuckles side. You're kind of like getting yourself a little bit of a warm up before you jump back at those other ones again. It kind of like, to me, sort of balances itself out. But to me, I'm not too fond of the Knuckle levels. I love the music, but I just can't stand looking for shit, and then when it's not working out, it extends the life of the game, where it makes it way longer than it needs to be. I just want to move on to the next, but at the same time, I know I was trying to do a lot in one go, so I kind of took myself away from that to be sure that I'm not trying to just kill myself just to get the game done, but to take small bites out of it. So I think it's an overall, it's okay, but it's not great.
It is a lot more generous than a lot of people would be. So Edwin, as the resident more Sonic fan than probably I am, what do you feel about the gameplay for Adventure 2?
So the thing that I like about Sonic Adventure 2 above most of the Sonic games is just like the variety of characters that you can play. Yes, Sonic Adventure has more, but that game is just absolute dog shit in like almost every way. So
to be fair, Sonic Heroes technically holds the title of most playable characters.
It's all at once, but it's like it's not in the same format as this one. But like, yeah, it has quite a bit of problems, maybe a little bit more than what I actually remember. But I play this game fairly frequently. This may be like the 5th time I've actually played this game. Because like it is my favorite. It was like they introduced Shadow, which is like the coolest character to me at the time. It still is in like a high level, but like the Sonic levels are like they're the better ones. But the odd reason is like Sonic probably has more levels than Shadow, because for some reason Eggman has a lot more levels than Shadow. It's like every other level was playing as Eggman rather than Shadow. So I started to get annoyed of that. But
Shadow has statistically the least amount of levels you play as him in the game, like comparatively to like every other character, which is strange.
Yeah, that was not even counting like literally just like the one time you play him is just a boss battle immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like for Sonic and Shadow, like their levels are the better ones. It is just a linear track, but like it's just a weird physics issue where it's just like where you're grinding on a rail, but it's like you just jump off for whatever reason or just fall off. And then at one point when I was playing as Sonic, I was like at the end of the grinding on the space colony level. I think it was Final Rush for Sonic. It's just for some reason when it hit the end of the railing, Sonic just does an immediate U-turn into space, and it's like I literally had no control of that. But it's like the physics for Sonic and Shadow is like persist throughout the entire game for most of the characters, and also it's just like the random enemies just falling right in front of you. I feel like that's a cheap way to like get a free hit on you. I was like, there's no way you're going to be able to avoid that unless you already knew it was going to happen, or you were going slow, which is not the point of the game. So it's like I just find that incredibly stupid when they do that, no matter what game it is for Sonic. And also the odd targeting system for their homing attack, which I tested it out a few times.
What targeting system?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have no other way to actually say it, but it's like if they're close enough, you can rapid fire, but if they're far enough, it takes longer for like the homing attack to actually target them. And if they're too far,
go ahead.
No, but if they're too far, the game will still target it as your next enemy, but the homing attack doesn't last long enough, and then when you actually get to the enemy, it just counts as a hit towards you, not that you're actually like attacking it. So
To me, how the fucking homing attacks and like any other ability in this game works is just good old dodgeball. Some of the, or what was it? What movie was this? It's like some of the times it works all the time.
Anchorman.
Yeah, Anchorman. There you go. Yeah, that's basically how the mechanics work in this game. That's probably, again, one of the more frustrating aspects of it, especially in the Sonic and Shadow levels, when you have to... Whenever I see a place I have to platform across a bottomless pit, and it's like homing attack to the enemies, I'm like, there is a solid 15% chance I am going to die here, and it will not be my fault. It's because Sonic just decided to kill himself, because he didn't feel like homing attacking the next enemy. It's terrible, especially because in newer Sonic games, you have a targeting reticule where you're going to homing attack and you see it. In this game, you just hope to God that the game decides to do what it's supposed to and not throw you into an abyss. It's terrible. I hate it. But yeah. Anyways, Corey, you probably had the most frustrating experience out of all of us because me and Edwin had the advantage of having experience with this game, so we are masters of jank. You were not used to the jank.
No, I mean, I looked back on the game with like fond memories of going like, that's the good Sonic game. But then when I go back and play it, and it still might be the good Sonic game, but it's not fun. Like there's a lot of bullshit that takes place, and it's kind of unfortunate when you're talking about like level design. Clearly, Sonic and Shadows levels have the most thought brought into it because it's like, they're the main characters. Like they're going to have a better, longer level that are these like almost racetracks with bullshit in between. I actually liked Robotnik and Tails' sections because it was like a breather from the horse shit. Because granted, they do have horse shit because they play like they weigh 1,000,000,000 pounds, but they're just like walk around and hold the B button to the most annoying sound effect that you can get. And then like when you're talking about Knuckles and Rouge, like Knuckles, I didn't have a problem playing through his levels, but Rouge, she has a level that takes 5 minutes, and you fail it if you don't do it in 5 minutes, and the items shuffle around, and it's not a pattern of 3 sections. It's every single one of them is unique locations. So you can't look up where the things are, even if you were trying to get through it. It just is. Even the strategy guide says, "Good luck." Just
Good luck.
Yeah.
a lot of bad design. There's a lot of bad design that just kind of encompasses the entire game when it comes to like the physics fucking me over, the
internet connection.
I love it. This is great. It always
There's
works
plenty of
out.
times. There's plenty of times where the game has like been playing against me in a sense of like I'm doing everything that you were allowing me to do and it's still not working. And like I've fought Dark Souls bosses, I've beat all of those Souls games, and I've died to bosses 40 times, but it's like, okay, it's a dance between me and the boss. I gotta dodge, I gotta like block, do this thing. Oh, I fucked up. But like literally I was playing the like what I thought was the last mission, but there's still 2 more missions after, and then I got to the Bio Lizard and just decided, fuck it. But when I was playing the last mission, I get to Sonic and I have no more lives left, and Sonic enters his part of that mission where he plays all the characters, sliding on a rail. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'm at Sonic now. He slides on the rail, and it just throws me off of the first platform. I don't even have control yet. It just yeeted me off and then gave me a game over. And I was like, really? What the fuck? It's like I'm dying because the game is just killing me. The camera sometimes will be like, I'm not going to let you look over there, and then all of a sudden I can't see where I'm going. Especially when you're running 3,000 miles an hour on a fucking level, it's like I need to know where I'm jumping to, but the camera will not show me where I need to be going. So yes, the leap of faith sucked. The at least the Knuckles level and the Rouge level is kind of like a compartmentalized experience, though the timer for Rouge is bullshit because Robotnik tells her you have 15 minutes and she goes, I'll do it in 5. And it's like, why did you say that? Now I have a timer that's shorter to find these stupid, and I found it and I barely beat that because I was standing on the crystal and I could see it in the junk pile. And I was like, why am I not collecting this? And I had to dig, even though I could see it. And it was like halfway through her feet. It just wasn't counted as a collection because you have to do the dig animation to get it. And I was just like, freaking out because I just tired. I played that level for like 2.5 hours before, and it's a 5-minute level, and I played it for 2.5 hours.
Holy shit, dude!
And I was just like, what the fuck, because it's like I don't know where they are. You talk to the TVs, they give you their stupid clues, but like the game itself will just be like, oh, the laser beam killed you or some bullshit, or just whatever physics nonsense where it'll just throw your ass somewhere. There's been plenty of times where I was playing as Sonic and he's just going too fast on a railing and it just yeets him off the level. And it's like, I didn't even press the jump button. Your collision detection isn't registering with the speed that he's going. So it's just decided that I'm no longer grinding on this thing. Or like he's moving so fast that even if I landed on a platform, the inertia is like you're carrying it over. And so his momentum is just going to make him fall off the edge anyways. And there's so many times the game has just killed me for no reason. When I was fighting the bio lizard, I bounced and I hit his damage point because you have to do the grind thing up to hit him. I hit that and it bounced me into the water, and then the water instant kills me because it pulls you off the level. And I was like, I don't get to choose where I land after doing this. The game was just like, you're dead. And then there was another instance where I'm doing the dive bomb attack to hit him, and because I'm too far away, apparently.
Go on.
Attack animation. So he just stops doing it and then slams into him, but it's damage on contact, and it just kills me because I didn't have a ring. And it's like, but there's nothing else I can do here. The only option was to do the attack move, but then you decided that I'm too far away for the attack move randomly. And there's so many of those instances where it's just like I am so frustrated with the controls. I was fighting something and then the camera just decided to have a fucking stroke and start doing circles around me, and then all of a sudden I was like, I don't know what's happening, and then I would get shot by some enemy in the background or whatever. And it's just there's too many of those moments that happen throughout the entire game, just that boss fight. And so I would say that the gameplay is absolutely trash. But I mean, when I was looking back at it, when I played the game when I was younger, I was like, oh, that was a fun game. But no, it is not.
And here's the thing. I am baffled that you spent 2.5 hours on that Rouge mission, because here's the thing. As you just said, the positions of the emeralds change every time. So you cannot. So really, having prior knowledge going into that mission is not a boon because it does not help. It doesn't matter. I did that mission in 3 minutes and got an A rank first try. I can't I wish I watched you play this game because I genuinely cannot conceive how you're having such a big problem with it. And don't get me wrong, the game is jank, but it just seems like that I like that mission because it's small. It's built to be fast because it's small, it's contained, not as unlike the fucking some of the other missions you have doing stuff with the hide and seek missions. And don't get me wrong, the game has a bunch of bullshit in it. This is what I mean by mastering the jank. You get used to all this game's tisms after a while. It's because again, it's kind of how I play Ark Survival Evolved. You just have to get used to the fact that the game is broken. And you just have to adapt, improvise, adapt, overcome to your situation. I'm not going to defend a lot of it. You just get used to it. And as you were saying, you remembered this game as the good Sonic game, right? And I have a theory about that. And it's just a theory, but it ties into the other gameplay section of the game, which is called the Chow Garden. So, the Chow Garden. The Chow Garden is this mini game that you get when you're playing the regular missions that you can visit in between missions to raise these little Chow creatures, these little like slime creatures. I don't know what the fuck they're supposed to be.
They're like Pokemon-esque type of things.
Yeah, so you collect these items and little animals in the missions that you use to power up your Chows, and basically have a bunch of mini games with them. It's a little like Tamagotchi side thing, right? But so, and that portion of the game is really fun because you raise your Chow, you get them all these skills, you enter them in contests and stuff. It's like it's a whole other game in the game. Little pet simulator. And then you can evolve them to be good or bad and unlock more stuff with that section of the game and stuff. Like, there's a lot to it, right? But here's the thing. There's a market in the Chow Garden that uses the rings you collect from the missions, right? So as a kid, you want to farm rings. What missions are you going to do? You're going to do the good missions. You're going to do City Escape. You're going to do Metal Harbor. You're going to do basically any, to each his own, but you're going to do all the missions that you like a lot, over and over and over again. And you're going to get really good at those missions. So you're not going to remember a bunch of the bullshit with them because you're going to get used to it. So you're going to keep farming those rings and the animals and the little power-up rod things on those missions. And that's all you do. So years down the line, the thing that you remember about the game is all the good missions that you were doing and you were good at them. So you're like, yeah, that wasn't so bad. But when you go back and you lost all that knowledge you had prior and you have to go through the entire game and you realize, wow, I was ignoring about like 80% of the game. I was only playing this 20% farming rings and stuff for my chows here. That's why I think a lot of people remember this game fondly. At least for the most part.
It's much different when you're playing it on summer vacation versus trying to beat it before, like, the movie comes out kind of thing. Because it's like I wasn't consuming the game in like a slow roll of going like, oh yes, this is a Sonic game. I was like trying to beat the game as fast as I could. So like you're kind of up against the wall because it's kind of like you have a sports car, but you're in a school zone,
Yeah.
I can go 150 miles an hour, but I can only drive 20 right now, and that is driving me insane.
So that's why I think, and on top of that, people might remember this game for its like charm, because it's charming in its clunkiness, especially with the gameplay. But funnily enough, the clunkiness does not only extend to the gameplay, because this game has a story. This game has cutscenes. This game has an overarching narrative. I wish I could hear it. I wish I could tell what the characters are saying at any time. So what I mean by this is, so again, overarching story is, again, essentially Shadow wakes up. He's going to use the Ark to blow up humanity because they killed Maria. He realizes he's wrong, and then everyone has to come together to stop it at the end. And a bunch of bullshit happens in between. Basically, Knuckles and Rouge are basically having their own little thing happening on the side, revolving around putting back together the Master Emerald that Knuckles broke in an attempt to stop Eggman from stealing it. And Rouge works for the government and is infiltrating Eggman's stuff to find out what he's doing. Yada 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 yada. However, so there's a bunch of cutscenes in between the game. I don't know how this happened, but the sound balancing in this game is the worst thing I have ever seen in a game in my life. Because in the cutscenes, I'm going to assume the guy fucked up, whoever was doing the sound for this game, and accidentally swapped the volume values for voice and music. Because
God, the audio design for this is fucking weird.
Characters' voices are so quiet, or it's either the characters or the voices are so quiet and the music is so loud, or just it's too loud in general. But the music is much louder than the characters talking, so loud that it literally drowns them out, and you cannot hear what they are saying, especially during some of the louder because every time a character's on screen or is talking in a cutscene, their theme is playing. Which, not to mention, all the themes have lyrics in them. So there's music going with lyrics on top of people trying to speak. Luckily, there's subtitles. Luckily, but it doesn't even stop there, because even in the times you can hear the characters speaking, the localization for this game was not good. Now, what I mean by that is that the voice actors are fine. I think they did fine. Some of the deliveries are bad and a little deadpan, but it was the early age of video games and localizations weren't as good as they are today. However, because they did not change the cutscenes for the timing, because here's the thing. The Japanese language works in a way where they can say a lot more with less words than we can in English. So their cutscenes go faster. There's less text. So typically, when localization happens that way, they might need to edit something in the cutscenes for games that actually extends them, that allows the English voice actors to get everything out in the pacing that it was supposed to be. However, in this game, they did not do that. So a lot of the times, characters are just stepping over each other with their lines. A famous example of being Shadow's like dissing Sonic, and before he even says the thing like insulting Sonic is already saying it's like shut up, it's like be quiet, shut up, you fake hedgehog, before Shadow even gets to the thing that he's saying. Like they step over their lines all the time. So not only is the
sound like a real argument.
They're answering questions before the question has even finished being asked.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So yeah, not only you're fighting with the music, you're also fighting with the characters just talking over each other. It's real fucking bad. So trying to absorb the story without those subtitles is a madman's task. Thank God there's subtitles in this game. So yeah, there's clunkiness in that, and unlike Sonic Adventure 1, which had a really bad mouth syncing, I mean, looks like someone is literally just rolling their face across the keyboard with the move tool to make their character's mouth move in that game. It's still not great in this game, but it doesn't look nearly as bad as it does in Sonic Adventure 1. We had a couple new characters. I think the only new characters in this game was Rouge and Shadow. Everyone else was already there before. Everyone likes Rouge for one reason or another, and obviously everyone likes Shadow. Shadow stuck around. So the characters are fine. Shadow, unlike the movie, is a lot more evil. Like, Shadow, in general, even in the movie, he's kind of portrayed as a much more softer-spoken kind of, like, edgy character. He is just a straight-up dickhead in this game. He does still learn his lesson, but he continues being, like, a really standoffish asshole throughout the entire Sonic series, where in the movie, I don't feel like... It portrayed him as a lot more kind-hearted than I think he really is, because he is supposed to be kind of an anti-hero. But anyways... But so you beat the hero story and you beat the dark story. And as Corey was kind of explaining earlier, you kind of cut out a little bit, but he was explaining the in between, or the last mission, where basically it's like how do you describe it? Just like a final run where you play every single character in their own little like mini mission in order to accomplish a goal. And you have to do it all all within the lives you have, which I think is like 5 or 6.
It's the last amount, because it's because I played the Chow Garden like probably more than any of you. So as I was collecting rings, I went into the last story, which is that final section, and I was like 12 lives above like the base amount you get. But like by the end of the mission, by the end of that entire story, I was down 7.
But as Corey was saying, you have to do it all in one go, and probably the worst thing, well, the Sonic segments are pretty bad, but I think the worst thing is the Knuckles segment, because there's a lot of underwater maneuvering, and it feels completely shitty. It is not Mario 64. I thought we had underwater movement figured out, but they decided, like, no, we're going to do our own thing, and they just tripped and fell on their face. But it's aggravating because you have to do everything all in one go. So if you lose all your lives, you have to start the whole thing over, which is real bad. The boss fight is meh. In fact, boss fights in this entire game are complete nonsense. You just basically spam attack and hope to God you win. Because if you're trying to take it in any kind of like slow and steady pace, you're going to die. Like, don't trust the game. Just trust the bullshit to work in your favor is what you have to do. But aside from that, I guess I'm just going to open the floor for anyone who wants to talk about anything else with the game, because quite frankly, there's not a whole lot to talk about unless we go more deeper into the story, which quite frankly, between this and the movie, you kind of get the whole picture. Shadow wants to destroy humanity because Maria got killed, but Maria is a good person. She wanted him to be a good person, help humanity, but he has like semi-amnesia for being frozen for so long, and doesn't remember any of that until I think Amy says something to him, and he actually remembers that, oh yeah, wait, I'm not supposed to kill humanity, shit! And he's like, I'm supposed to help humanity, it was the opposite thing. Which is kind of silly in that kind of context, but it's whatever. Again, it's Sonic, I'm not expecting Shakespeare, but there are nice moments in the game, again, mainly evolving around Shadow. Usually Rouge or Amy says something to him along those lines. And technically speaking, he does die at the end of this game, and Sega's was like determined, like they really thought that was going to be it, like Shadow's dead, but he was such a popular character, they're like, well, we like money, so we're going to bring him back. And that's why Shadow's still with us today instead of just not being a character entirely.
They thought this was going to be the last Sonic game. So they were. Just,
I don't know
like,
about
throwing
that.
everything at it.
I haven't heard that. All I know, I haven't heard about being the last Sonic game. All I heard is that this was going to be the last. Like this was going to be Shadow was going to be a one and done character. It wasn't going to be a
Because I
character.
think that's why they have the like climactic, everybody working together like part of the story, because they were going to like wrap up the franchise with this one. I think because like the games themselves have been kind of trailing off, but um, with this becoming super popular, that's why the levels are also fucking wild, because there's no connection. Like the characters are just everywhere when you're playing as somebody, next thing you know you're in Egypt, and then it's like now I'm in the jungle, and it's like, well, I don't understand what's going on. They're like, neither do we, but who cares? Because the story obviously is very just like there is a simple overarching theme, and then everything else is just like filler text while we're getting there, in a sense of like literally just filler, because it's like, okay, the story kind of is there at the beginning, and then we dive back into it at the end when you get to the arc, but everything in between that is just kind of fucking crazy, because the pacing is just everywhere and the levels don't really make any sense. And I'm not going to harp them for being like, oh, why are we in Egypt now? It's like, I just don't think the levels make a lot of sense of why anybody's doing anything, because there's no real communication of any characters going anywhere. No one says they're going anywhere. Like, there's no context for why anybody's doing anything. It's just, this is a Knuckles level. This is a Tails level.
Here's the funny thing, right? Is that when Sonic Heroes came out, people were like, wow, these levels seem a lot more fun than they were in Sonic Adventure, a lot more varied, right? And they're like, well, you see, in Sonic Adventure 2, we were constrained by the story for where we had settings for our levels, but in Sonic Heroes, we didn't really have that. We could just do whatever we wanted with every levels. When I heard that, I was like, you fucking what, mate? You just decided that Eggman's base was in a pyramid because you just wanted to do a pyramid level. That's the only reason.
Yeah. It doesn't make any damn sense. The boss fights are kind of weird. Because like, if you're typically fighting the enemy team, like the Knuckles Rouge fight is really fucking stupid, because suddenly like Knuckles has lightning attacks.
Yeah, well, they spam these. Those attacks are only meant to be like really well. You have it in the mech
for the
fights
battle
too.
side of things.
Yeah, they're for the battle.
The only time you use them. But the only bosses, like you fight the weird like military vehicle with Sonic, and then Robotnik and Sonic both fight the like golem thing in the pyramid. But there really isn't any other bosses per se outside of the Bio Lizard, and then the Bio Lizard again when he has the arc shoved up his ass in the end. Like the audio design of the game is just fucking terrible as well. The soundtrack is great, but like whenever anybody's talking to deliver the story, they're just like somebody's slowly turning the radio all the way up, because it's like I can't hear what they're saying. They do have subtitles, but it's just so distracting. And then Amy's character is fucking retarded. Yeah, she doesn't do anything. Like she's just ditzy as shit in the game.
Well, the only thing the only thing Amy did was unlock Sonic's cell. She just magically has the key somehow, and that's the only reason she exists in the story for that moment and the last moment of the game where she triggers Shadow's memory, where he's like, "Oh shit, I'm supposed to be a good guy," just by saying something. Other than that, she's literally just there to be a damsel in distress, essentially.
Simp.
Yeah, there's so many, like, I don't know, there's just so much negative like things for me in this game that like just drove me insane, and it's literally because I'm playing against the game, because the jank is so strong with this. Like the controls are bad, the camera's bad, the physics are bad, and it's just kind of like it's just so weird to think about how my opinion on the game changed so drastically after playing it over the like last 2 weeks.
I only went around with this game is by thinking like the same kind of concept of how weird things are as if it was like I was playing Mario. I wasn't expecting anything to be like put towards a real actual story, like things just to be randomly occurring, because I did not actually have any really strong like ideas of what's going on in the actual Sonic series and such. I just remember just just a lot of love for Knuckles and Metal Sonic, just because of the design of how the characters look and stuff. But never really had any like interest in the story itself. So when I started watching this, the characters and how everything was designed, it just looked very cartoony, and it just didn't seem like it really had a seriousness to it. So I didn't really care to pay attention to the story. But just the fucking audio on it was just the icing on the cake for me, because it just made things so much more funny. I mean, when you've got people next to you laughing because of just how shit are going, it's funny as shit. Just like when they're on the shuttle to the Ark, and then they're like, "Don't hit that switch," and then it just starts fucking going out of control. The top hatch opens, and they're just falling into space.
That scene is probably the worst example, or the worst/best example of the fucking characters talking over each other. Because I think seriously, at one point, all four of them are trying to say something all at the same time. It is absolute madness.
So it just made the fucking fun. It just made the game funny. So I was like, as much as I was like frustrating through how the game design is working, like when it went to a cutscene, I just knew I was in for a treat. It was just fucking hilarious.
That's what I mean by it's charming, right? Like, because there are like there's a certain charm to the fucking like. I don't mean it as a good thing. Do not strive to be this, but there is just some certain charm of it being so bad that you're just like, I like this. Like it's just just weird like that, you know.
The entire time I was playing it, I was like, they released this. Like, did they even play it? Like, it's because there'd be times where it's like, oh, I got killed again. Oh, because of the fucking lock-on thing didn't work or whatever, or the arbitrary, like, Shadow, when you have to bounce on the things that are surrounding the Bio Wizard, I don't get to choose which one he goes for. He just goes to one, and then I'm hoping eventually I'll get on top of this stupid thing. I was watching a speedrunner try to do it, but it's like, well, obviously they have had plenty of practice. I can't really do this too, but it was just like there's so much stupid shit that happens in the game where it's like I died and it was completely out of my control. I've harped on that plenty of times. The game itself, like in Jordan, the fact that you say like you think about it like, oh, it's like a Mario game when you go back and play, but like I can go back and play Mario 64 and that game is still tight controls and very focused, but like this game is all over the place. And I know that games are supposed to be like, gradually more difficult over time to test the player on the skills that they've adapted and learned as like the game builds up, but it's not really the case. Like you get power-ups and stuff, but the game is just becomes more and more bullshit as you go. Like even though you get a power-up, sometimes like the game doesn't even direct you to that power-up properly, because like there's only a couple levels where you hit a roadblock and then it's like, why can't I continue? It's like, oh, because if you could turn the camera properly, you'd see that there's a thing over there you got to go pick up, and then you get it, and it's like, oh, now I can break boxes that I couldn't previously break. Okay, but it doesn't like guide the player to the power up properly. It doesn't do it like it's not a Metroidvania, obviously, but like a Metroidvania, you'd see something like, oh, I can't interact with that. Maybe if I got something later. We were playing. What was the game where you can charge and roll up we're a brothership, you get the brothership abilities and you can do stuff, but like this game has just like, we thought this mechanic was cool, so we put it in the game, and then it doesn't really matter if the game had it or not. It doesn't really change the game in a better way. It's so that they can have more bullshit that you have to deal with. So like the levels of course get worse and worse as you get to the end of the game, and when you get to the space levels, they are all bad. Sonic's space level is so shit, but it's like, I don't know if it's worse than Shadow's level. They both have a shitty like adaptation, because Sonic, I think you flip the gravity in the world that you're going on, which is amazing because the game has the best camera in the world. So when you invert the gravity, it just makes the camera that much better. But Shadow's thing is running on gravity pillars that pull you towards them, and then sometimes it just forgets. And then you just end up running and falling off the platform because you jumped too far or something. It's weird how the game progressively gets worse instead of just, and not in like this game is getting more difficult way. It's just like the bullshit like meter starts really going off the charts, where I'm just surprised that they released that and high-fived and was like, yeah, Sonic 2, we got like, that's cool. Like everybody will love this. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of ideas that are going on in the game, and it's neat to see how much content, because Sonic Racing came from this. I mean, not necessarily like the Sonic Racing, because that's the Sega CD one, but like the go-kart one. They had a go-kart racing minigame in here. They have all those Chow things in here. They have the fighting thing in here, which Edwin came over, and I'll probably have some footage of that when we were doing the battle like multiplayer thing together, and that was kind of funny. Because we did, I think we did the treasure hunting one, and then we did some. I didn't have karting unlocked yet, so we did some like battles, and then some racing with Shadow and Sonic or something. Oh, I was Metal Sonic, because he's like my favorite from the comics. Because that's my only interaction, is I didn't have Sega like consoles growing up, so I read the comics of Sonic. But like the Chow thing was neat, because you could, if you were playing it on Dreamcast, you could put them on the Dreamcast's memory card and play them like a Tamagotchi and like kind of level them up. So I feel like it's a Chow like simulator, and then they're like, oh, let's staple this Sonic game to it, because like the Chow thing seems like that's where most of the focus was, to keep it cohesive, and then everything else is just random fucking Sonic shit.
And that was also where a glitch came from too, is the constantly switching back and forth with your with your Chows. If you did that, it would do something terrible to your fucking game.
Like what?
I believe it was that if you did do that too many times, it would like erase your save.
That's probably the worst thing that could happen.
Hold on, here it is. So the Chow Wild Sonic Adventure 2 contains a hidden glitch. So transferring a Chow between memory cards repeatedly will trigger a glitch. Action triggers. It doesn't tell you what, but I believe it was that, if you did it enough times, it would trigger like a glitch to where your save would just get erased.
Oh no, I have to play this awesome game all over again?
Yeah.
Edwin, don't even.
I played it 5 times. I don't know what we're talking about.
I remember it fondly too. I liked playing it, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's good.
Like I played it once as a kid, and I had the strategy guide and everything that also has Sonic Advance on in it, and I was like in it, right? But I was basically just playing it for the Chows. Like me and my friends were like, "Oh, what's your Chow doing? Oh, look, mine's fast," and like we didn't really give a shit about the Sonic aspect of things. We were literally just talking about like what our Chows look like, and playing the mini games, like the races and the karate and whatnot, and like that was so fun, just like feeding them little animals, like yes, to grow stronger. But like the Sonic part of the game, it's like, oh shit. And I don't even know if I knew about the initial like you beat both, now here's the last thing, because when I was playing it, I was like, this is really new to me. I think I just totally ignored it as a kid. And so playing it, I was like, oh, okay. I mean, it's all bullshit. It's just more bullshit. It's just a new section of bullshit. That's all it really is.
Jordan, how are we doing on time?
We got ourselves another 40 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, it's like, I mean, I was letting you guys rant about the bullshit in the game, but like the way I see Sonic Adventure 2, like all the bullshit and everything, it was like I kind of see it in a similar way when I first started playing Dark Souls. Like it obviously had like some bullshit. Like obviously you're gonna scream and whine. It's like I didn't do that. It wasn't me. It's obviously like worse in Sonic Adventure than it would be in a Dark Souls game. But I still had like the similar feeling of like determination to like get through it. Like, yes, rushing through the whole thing for a whole month would be annoying to try and go through, but like it's like the charm of it is like that's like the point of what makes Sonic better. Like even if like the game's like obviously like bad, like all the way up to 06, I think now they're doing much better. But like the charm of it was like that it's like it's a Sonic game. It's like it's not going to be super great. But like you get to play like all the characters, you get to go through all this nonsense. Like it's for like the time that it was like this is like the kind of experience you could possibly only get from a Sonic game.
Bad one?
Huh?
I'm sorry. You really have to think about what you're saying, Edwin. It's like I understand what you're trying to say, but it's like we should not strive to be shit. Like it's like, oh yes, Sonic. This is going to be wholesomely shit. It's like, Sonic Generations.
You play it for Sonic and things like that, but why does
that mean it doesn't have to be good though? Does Sonic have to be bad to be Sonic? Is that what makes it Sonic? Is it being bad?
Like the universal knowledge where it's like, oh, it's a Sonic. It's like a Sonic. It's like I forgot what that term was. It's like like the expectation of like playing a Sonic game, but that's
what I'm saying. It's like what you are saying is that yes, I play this for Sonic, and when I play Sonic, I expect it to be bad. So it's not Sonic unless it's shit.
Well, I mean, it's like
McDonald's experience, right? It's the McDonald's of games. Like it's not good, but it's a game.
Well, I mean, and what is it? It was the start of like the 3D. Like Sonic games. I think before this one, it was Sonic Adventure and then Sonic 3D Blast. Is that correct? I think those were like the only other two 3D Sonic games because
they had some weird 3D Sonic games that were on Sega CD. But yeah.
Well, it's like the problem that Sega had that like all the other companies kind of solved before them was the communication between the English studio and the Japanese. For some reason, all the way up to, I believe, Sonic 06, they had a terrible communication problem with each other, which would be the issue for most of the Sonic games, because even all the way to Sonic Heroes and things like that, you still have the same problem. But I'm like what I said before, like several podcasts ago, is like you play Mario for the experience of playing a Mario game, but for Sonic, you play it because of Sonic's personality and like the world that they're on. It's just absolutely crazy. But it's just like obviously Sega.
Why does that mean it has to be bad?
I mean, no, it's like it's not the same quality of game. Like obviously, you're not gonna have like a similar Mario quality because it's Sega for whatever reason. I have no idea what the problem is, but it's just
just don't see that as giving it a pass though. It's like I agree with you. Like I can't experience Sonic in any other way than playing a Sonic game, but because the Sonic games are bad doesn't mean I want them to be bad. Because it's like I want things to be like I want hero shooters to be Overwatch levels of quality as much as I don't like Overwatch. I don't want them to be something different. I want them to be good. That's what I'm saying. I'm just like holding it up to a level of quality. Like it's like I don't give it a pass because it is Sonic and it's terrible. Like I still enjoy it because it's nostalgia. I get it, but it's like I look at it and like, man, I wish. That's why I like Sonic Generations so much and why I hold that one up on a pedestal, because that is a genuinely good one. That is like that is what Sonic can be when it's not this.
It's like
Sonic 3D Blast is orthographic.
Is what?
It's an orthographic game, like top-down, kind of. I don't know how to describe it. Like the top-down clicker games, like Diablo original. Well, maybe not Diablo, but that camera angle. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
I feel like
I think it's like you played it like a long way through. I never actually beat it.
It's just an orthographic view.
You know, there's like 10 different glitches that goes on with the Chow Garden, apparently. There's a lot of shit going down.
I never played it long, and I never like stuck around for the Chow Garden as much, mostly because I didn't understand how it went.
Well, there wasn't one with the transferring of the chows, but if you do happen to take your chow, like to try to have it reincarnated, to the chow doctor, and you do that too many times,
it can die. What the fuck?
Well, die in 3 hours.
It will crash your game and corrupt your save file.
Okay, I don't know about that.
I don't know they could die. That's terrifying.
I mean, they either die if they're treated badly, or if they were treated well enough, they just reincarnate into a whole new Chow, which, depending on what the previous one was, it will just transform.
Right, but I'm assuming if it was reincarnated and you're bringing it back to the doctor, again, it crashes the game and it just corrupts your save file.
I mean, I don't know anything about that.
Maybe
The
read
only
the
reason
doc.
I went to the kindergarten, which is what that school is, I just go for the black market. I don't care about anything else. In that
I
school.
go to the kindergarten to get to the black market.
There's a black market glitch too, apparently too. So
Yeah, but little trail off. But it's like the reason like all the Sonic games still go through is because you like the charm of what a Sonic game is, regardless if it's bad or good. You still like it. And the Sonic generations, you go back to playing all those old levels, and you just feel the nostalgia. I was like, oh, this is what it was meant to be played.
Yeah, I
as.
played the old levels, and now they're good because they remade them with like good like mechanics.
Yeah, if you look through like all the bug reports and things like that, you realize that it was a lot of either company communication issues, it was hardware limitations, or it was just their own lack of planning for like holiday releases and things like that. But I mean, like the thing about like the Sonic was like, yeah, it's like the personality and also like the so-called bad gameplay for the most part is just like part of the charm for it. But it's just like the hardware limitations like really went towards the Sonic Adventure, where it's like chaos in that game isn't even supposed to look like that. That was just the best they could do. And Sonic Generations is like where he was supposed to look, how he was supposed to look, which is still pretty badass. But like the pacing of the story, yes, that's just entirely bad. I understand what they were trying to go for, splitting and keeping the opposite or the opposing side of the story away from the one you were currently playing. I understand what they were going for, but that just made the story make no sense by keeping it like apart in bits and pieces, where you only get one side if you're playing the one side, and then the other if you're playing that side. It just doesn't make any sense. I'd rather have it all together and just see the same repeating cutscenes from a different perspective. Like, I don't mind seeing the same cutscene as long as it makes sense and it's consistent in storytelling. The levels, I think I mentioned it before. I watched like a breakdown of Sonic in its entirety down to the actual level design, and I think I think even with Sonic Adventure 2, while it's better overall, the level design in Sonic Adventure 1 was still better, because now they went into this kind of design where there's no longer linear, it's more open, where you can finish a level in almost whatever way you want to. Where in Sonic Adventure 2, it's more linear, especially with all the grinding, where you literally only have one or two like specific areas to go to, but they all just lead back to the same one in a much shorter time. And one of the upgrades you can get is the mystical melody, which I personally think is the
I
worst
found that for the
type of
first
thing.
time in this playthrough, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah, it was the most pointless shit in the entire game. But it's like I did it for Tails in the pyramid area, and all it did was waste like 10, but not 10 minutes, like 5 minutes of my time for a single one up. I was like, that was completely pointless.
It's a ability that wastes your time.
Yeah,
It's like great.
I mean, some of them are somewhat useful, but that's like mainly for Sonic and Shadow, which is like where the focus on went to the most. But
Mhm.
it still lacks, because most of the time it's just like for any other character, it's just for like a one up or something insignificant. But for Sonic and Shadow, it gives you like a line of rings that you can collect just to go to a secret area to finish the game faster. But it's like each level is also specifically designed or altered to do more than just one mission. So that was also something that was lacking. It's a little bit pointless, but playing the same level over and over again was the whole point for the Chow Garden, as you explained before.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, as you said, like everything just led towards the Chow Garden for replayability. But I mean, looking past all that, you still can put a lot of gameplay into Sonic Adventure 2 if you want to focus on the Chow Garden, which is not terrible. I just feel it's kind of bullshit because it's
Well,
just like
there's some fun secrets in the game where if you get all the emblems and shit, you unlock like Green Hill Zone as like a level, but getting all the emblems is like a pull your hair out level of task.
yeah. I mean, I think I did it once, and then I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that again because it was absurdly time consuming.
Because it involves like getting like an S like A rank on every mission. Not only that, you have to get like the biggest score or whatever on the or the win every single Chow Garden like tournament doodad or whatever, something like that. So there's like it's a ton of work that goes into that task.
I think it was 130 or 140 emblems in the entire game, but
It's quite a
I
lot.
mean, yeah, I like literally just finishing the main story gives you like close to 40, not even 40, but every mission has like four other missions to do besides like the base one.
Mhm.
Obviously, to collect 100 rings is the easiest, but there's also they find a lost Chow, which the direction in the game for the upgrades is not very good. I kind of knew that Corey was complaining earlier about not being able to go through the underwater level in the final act, but it's like it when I got to the mining area for Knuckles, the knowledge just exploded in my mind where it's just like I know exactly where the breathing necklace is, and I went straight for it. I was like, I remember more than I thought. It's like
It's
I
funny
figured
because that level, that level, you don't necessarily need it except for to beat it. If because I almost drowned, but I hit the last gem at that moment because I was like, what was my choices? Find the thing or die? Because that's what the design of the level felt like to me. Because it was just literally, I was swimming down the tunnel, and then it was like doing the dit song, and then it was about to kill me on like a 3-2, and then I touched the gem, and I was like, so my options were win or
or
Win or what? Win or what?
I think his computer reset, like he said it was going
He's
to
been
before.
having issues today.
no. Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't understand it. But you've heard the 180 emblems, right?
180 emblems.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
180 total.
Okay. Well, I mean, I looked at the guidebook that you had, but I don't. Is your guidebook the Sonic Adventure 2 Battle or just Sonic Adventure 2?
It's battle.
Okay, so I guess I missed a page. It's like the more emblems you get, the more stuff that unlocks in the Chow Garden black market.
Yeah.
But there's like there's a bigger diehard fan than I am who will do it more than once to get all those emblems.
Yeah, no, never. I'll beat the game, but I never even really figured out like the complexities for the Chow Garden because I was trying it a little bit in this playthrough, but I've only ever unlocked like the Hero Garden, never like the Evil Garden. Because I was trying to give my Chow like one Chow I was giving everything, and then one Chow I would always just go in, take him, and just chuck him across the entire garden and leave. Like I was just abusing him. I'm like that would turn you evil, right? That's how superheroes work.
So it's like I've done this a few times because it was like I'm trying to understand the Chow Garden, but apparently playing it before Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, it's a bigger nightmare than it's honestly worth to me. Because the first time I played Sonic Adventure 2 was on the Dreamcast. And in that one, it doesn't give you any information on how well your Chow is doing or how strong it is, because it doesn't give you that little stat chart on the side when you're near it.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so it's like then they added that, and then they changed a few other things. There's still one bug where when you give your Chow a fruit, it'll give it like 1 bar every time it shrinks because it's like eaten enough. Why'd you share that? It's just a picture of a Chow in the chat. I just saw it pop up as I was talking. It's just a goofy face. But like there's still like one glitch. Well, actually 2 glitches. I exploited them both. in the Hero Garden, the fruit there will give you your Chow 3 times as much stamina as it's supposed to, opposed to the neutral Chow Garden and the dark Chow Garden. And then if you take, I don't understand why it's separate. I'm assuming it's because like the Tamagotchi aspect of it, where the Chow Garden has its own save file, while the rest of the game has its own as well.
Yeah, it's weird.
So when anything that you put in the Chow Garden, it's saved there, away from the rest of the game. So when you can buy the most expensive thing in the black market and put it in the Chow Garden, and then just leave, and then the whole game will save. Then if you go back and then you go in the Chow Garden and take out the thing you bought, bring it back to the black market and save it, or sell it, go into your settings and then just change any random setting, mainly the rumble feature, which is the easiest one. Then just back out. The game will save outside the Chow Garden, and then you just close the game. And then the item you sold will still give you the money for it, but the Chow Garden will still have the item for you, like as if you didn't sell it at all. So those were the two things. I was like, I'm getting a little annoyed of playing Escape from the City, like just to get as many rings as possible. But like for the Chows, they can die, and they have a lifespan that can be extended by 10 minutes at a time. And they only survive for 3 hours. But that's only while you're in the Chow Garden is when their life is like advancing. So
yeah, so I would hope so, because I'm just like, I play that. I know my playtime was only like 8 hours or something like that. I'm like, they should be dead, but they never died.
Yeah, I was like, I was trying to figure. I was like, why are my Chows not changing? It's because I haven't spent. I've cared for them and I gave them so much shit, but it's just like I never like spend their life never advanced. So it's like they're not actually growing. They're just like slightly changing because of how I'm training them.
Yeah.
But as you were doing, you were throwing them and everything, which just makes them die faster. Yeah, so it's like if they're unhappy, they'll die faster, and if you throw them, you're just injure them and cry. So like they'll die even faster that way. But if you care for them with the villains, they'll turn into dark chows. If you care for them with the heroes, they'll turn into a light chow. I have absolutely no idea how to get a hero chow, which is like a chaos chow. It looks more like chaos than like any other character, which is kind of weird. But then once they finally transform into a hero chow or a light chow or a dark chow, then that's when the other two gardens will open. Which I find slightly disappointing and a little pointless, considering that you have two more gardens, but you always have to go to the first garden that you have because that's the only one that takes you to the Chow games. So it's just a little annoying. That I was like, you have to leave the garden that you opened where everything is, and then just go back to the first one, which you barely even need anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I just found that kind of weird. But I mean, I finished the beginning courses, and then the rest were like, hey, real shit time. Your Chow sucks compared to the computers, and just train them up because you have no control. The game just plays itself. It's a little. It is still like a Tamagotchi kind of game where it's just like just train them and then just see how well they do, and then that's it. But it gets kind of stressful the longer you spend there, the older your Chow gets, and it's like, he's gonna die soon. But I was so close to finishing that race.
Just get back up. You can't die yet. You haven't won me the gold. You haven't achieved what I couldn't.
But I do have a question for everyone. What was your favorite level in Sonic Adventure 2?
Because I'm an edgelord and I always liked Shadow. It was usually it was his first level. I forgot the title of it, but it was it's like City City Grind or something like that. But I did play Escape from the City a lot. That I played from Escape from the City a lot and Pumpkin Hill a lot only because of the music. Like that was really the only reason. I think I played Metal Harbor technically the most, simply because it was the one I got the best at, and I was able to complete it the fastest, and that was like my go-to for like grinding rings for the Chow Garden.
Metal Harbor. Is
Metal
that a Sonic level?
when he's escaping the the prison.
Oh, okay. I thought Metal Harbor was the one where Eggman is trying to distract the military.
They might have the same. The same title, or I'm either wrong or they have the same title. It's one of those two.
Keith, Jordan, Corey.
All right, I'll go. So mine, I don't know. I kind of caught in the middle between two levels, which is funny because it's either the level that I think it's like the second or third level when you start playing as Knuckles. I just like that level because of the music that was in there. It's like you're in some Egyptian level and you're just like floating around, but it's like playing some hip hop music, and I thought that was really cool. Even though again, I can't stand the looking for the gem thing, but the music was just so damn good, so I was enjoying it quite a bit. Or my next one would be when you're escaping the forest as Sonic and someone else, you and Shadow are both trying to escape, and it's going to blow up in like 8 minutes or something like that. I can't remember the time exactly. So you're trying to escape the forest while it's like falling apart and stuff, and that was pretty cool music as well. It kind of, I say kind of, because it was just, I was still getting screwed, but like it was flowing a little bit better than most levels were. And seeing that you're like wrapping around with these vines and stuff and throwing you to the other levels and stuff, that was kind of cool because it was a huge giant change of scenery within this giant forest. So I mean, that was for me.
Corey, if he's still here.
He might be troubleshooting.
That one's like the most nostalgic level.
Okay, hold on. Start from the beginning. As soon as you started talking, it cut out. As soon as you started talking, it cut out. Apparently, yes.
Correct. I don't understand what's going on, but the City Escape, Sonic's first level is iconic. It's definitely the most nostalgic when you think about this game. The Jungle Escape level with Shadow, I think, was also
The White Forest, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was like we played that one. That. What was it?
Huh?
He was finishing his thought.
Oh, okay. It's just like I think I played.
You're playing a Shadow.
The White Forest, yeah. I think we ended up playing that one in the 2-player mode before I even played it on the Dark Story mode. So I was like very lost. I was like, I don't understand whose level this was because I completely forgot. I thought it was the same level as Sonic and Shadow. I mean, as Sonic's level, just a green forest, because like I don't understand. It was like why it was like the green forest for Sonic and the white forest for Shadow was like they're in the same forest. That's exactly where they fought. So
yeah,
like,
they literally are standing
lost.
Next to each other, and then they're like, "We have to leave," and then they have different levels. So it's like, okay.
And then he jumps into a cutscene. Shadow does. He just jumps and he's like in the fucking base trying to rescue Rouge to solve this button where Sonic's running for his life.
It's like every time that I get to Pumpkin Hill, which is also I think like almost equally as iconic as the City Escape. I was like, every time I get to that level, it's just always so much bigger than what I remember, because it's like there's like some pumpkin mountains like out in the distance where you can actually fly to, and there's like some unique thing over there because of just how far it is. But it's just like it's like a 30-second flight just to get there. It's like the fact that you have to find 3 different things in that entire level is just a little ridiculous, considering it's so vast, but it's also incredibly like high to like get to. It's like the very top and to the very bottom, and that freaking train just running around. I still don't understand how to control that thing. But like I also like Pumpkin Hill and Escape from the City. But like I also do like it's the same level as Shadows. I just forgot. It's something Highway, Radical Highway or something. But I like there's like the Tails level as well. I think that one's kind of better because he always gets the jump boots, the booster legs. So it's like I always try and get those first, and like I like those because his model actually looks better with those on than just those skinny ass legs on his plane. So it's like without those boots, it's like his model for his character just always bugs me.
I would give I just want to point out something that I found that was always funny in this game, and it's just due to my fucking horny teenager self. Rouge's tits fucking jiggle a lot in this game when you're fucking playing as her.
Yeah, they do.
It's just funny to me in a game like this. Essentially,
it's just funny how it's like it jiggles in like a where the top of her ears.
Yeah, they have like the same physics engine or something like that. It's really weird. Shit, it was about the upgrades because Corey said it a while back. Yeah, they kind of put them out of the way, but there's actually a number of like optional upgrades, because when I think Edwin said something in the chat about Knuckles being able to get some kind of like rebreather thing, I had no idea that existed. I always just got good enough at the water sections that I just could do it without it. And I was just like, oh shit, there was something I could have just negated that entire thing. I never knew that.
Well, I don't even know what the sunglasses are for.
The sunglasses
they block your eyes, so they block your eyes from the sun.
Yeah.
Well, and those are completely optional, and I feel like it has this weird like effect on the level. So Rouge and Knuckles have Rouge has the scope, and then Knuckles has the sunglasses that you can put on. But when you jump there, and they're removed. But they just let you see things that are invisible, which is the weird thing because it's not just items that are invisible; it's also spring pads that you cannot touch if you're not wearing the sunglasses. So it's just this weird dimension where you're wearing them, and then you can touch like the everything is now tangible rather than just being invisible. Because when I first got the sunglasses, a few platforms up, there's an invisible spring that you can see while you're wearing the sunglasses, and you can touch to fly out of that little area that you're stuck in. But if you're not wearing the sunglasses and you go to that same spot where the spring is, it's just not existent. So it's just that weird effect that, and I was like, I don't really understand. I was like, if it was invisible, it just brings in more mystery rather than just like function. So I don't know. I just thought that was like a weird thing to just not have that like exist at all without the sunglasses.
I just never even knew they existed. I had to bullshit my way through the game without them.
The game is such a just collaboration of ideas. That's all it really is.
I mean, everyone wants like a remake, or well, it needs a remake, not a remaster, because Sonic the battle version is the better version, but we clearly see like how much better it is, which is not a whole lot.
I think that more comes from like the fact that with generations and like a lot more of the modern Sonic, we have seen what Sega team can do when they actually want to try. So it's like, man, I want my nostalgia game to be good, so I want them to remake it now with the skills they have now, you know?
Yeah, because like it was kind of saddening to know it's like that how far behind Sega was compared to everyone else because of their communication issues, because it's like just no one could understand each other. I was like, I don't know why they were structured like that, but now it's like you can clearly see that it's much better from like generations onwards. So it's just like now you can know it's like so like it was like we all remember Sonic Adventure 2 fondly, but playing it now with like the games that we have played now, you see like okay, so now we have a new standard of quality. It was like, so now I remember this game fondly. I want it to be the same level of quality because I was like, to me, it was like I like the characters, I like the story about Sonic Adventure 2. Like I like the entire idea. I'm super glad that Shadow was not a one-off, which I still find super surprising. That like in a similar fashion, like that Silver is still more of a one-off character, considering how it's like how he's barely existent now. So it's like I want to see Sonic Adventure 2 like as like a nostalgic game and still a game that I still like despite all of its flaws have like the same quality as like Sonic Generations, because I have the Sonic and Shadow Generations, and it was like I'm playing and it was like this is really good and I like it, but I was like I still want my Sonic Adventure game because it's like that's still where I fell in love with Sonic rather than just like a silent character. Now I just like his personality as well, and I like all these other characters. I was like, I still want to see them in like a better light in a studio that is now finding its footing in the industry. So
Yeah.
I just want to see like everything like finally come together for what is possibly the first time since the side-scrolling pixel art Sonic.
Like Sonic does have a lot of cool things going for it, and like as a franchise, and it's just kind of like, come on, guys, you can do this. You have so many examples to like look at now. So like
They had examples to look at then too. Let's
yeah.
not.
it's just weird because it's like you have the ingredients for something that could potentially be like fucking awesome, and then you just release this, and it's like Jet Set Radio came out on around the same time, and it's not a speed game, but you grind and do a bunch of crazy shit, and like Sonic could have played similar and just a little faster, if there was just more purpose to the style of the game rather than just like make him go 1,000 miles an hour and we'll just figure it out as we go. That's I I feel like it's still too early maybe for them to introduce him to a 3D space, even in Sonic Adventure, because of like just because everybody else was doing it, they had full opportunity to be like, well, we're just gonna really get good at like 2.5D or like 2D gaming, while you guys go off and chase this other pipe dream. But they fell into it just like everybody else, and it just kind of like it almost killed the franchise.
Yeah. I mean, because it's like that's why I don't really give it much of a pass. Because at the time, it's like we figured out what 3D platformers how they work, guys. Because Mario 64 existed, like, and then we come out with this, like that's acceptable. At least the people at Bubsy 3D, when they released Bubsy 3D, they were like, "Yeah, we saw Super Mario 64 come out, and we were like, we're fucked. It's over."
It's like constantly playing. I was like, I've seen like some comments in like the similar fashion where it's like people constantly play like a Sonic game regardless of like how obviously like badly reviewed it is, just because like it's still not good and they're trying like new things. But it's like that same itch that you get for Pokemon where it's just like I love the idea, I love the characters. I just want to play something because like I know how good it can be, and I just want to play like just to see if how they're improving. It's like, is this the one? Is this the one?
Yeah,
Just
you're
constantly
playing
checking.
hoping it's going to be the greatest version of it ever made, and then you play and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
maybe
but
next
it's
time.
like constantly checking. I was like, I don't care. Like if they're
That's the
still on
legacy
the
of Sonic, wanting it to be good, and it comes out and it's not.
Yeah.
It was like Sonic Generations, Sonic Colors, and then I mean the only complaint I've heard of Sonic Frontier is just Sonic's voice. I was like, I don't think I've heard anything bad about the
Well, it's
game
another
itself.
just like open world filled with nothing.
Well, there's and then there's
Also,
like
I don't
that's
like
a
the
remake,
music in
but
that game. I hate the music in Frontiers, and it's because um, we have like this Spotify playlist me and my friends all have, and at some point my friend Tim like put the entirety of the Sonic Frontiers album in that playlist, and every time like this like way over orchestral like grandiose like song came on, I'm like I just stop and I'm like I have no idea what this is from, but this sounds like it shouldn't be in a Sonic game, so it's probably Sonic Frontiers. And every time I looked, I was correct.
have
I
you
was like,
heard Sonic Adventure music? Where it's nonsensical.
yeah, but that's like goofy and fun. Like it's cool music, you know? That's what Sonic is. He's cool. But then this is like fucking weird over the top orchestral Skyrim music that I'm listening to, and I'm just like, what the fuck? That's why I say the music is good in Sonic Adventure, because it can be listened to by itself. But I still think, like, if the music wasn't drowning out the voice acting, like, it would be good background music for the most part. I think it works because that's what Sonic is. He's radical. He's cool. So you have like rap music and all this other crazy cool music in it. You know.
Well, the Sonic Frontier music, as you explained it, probably makes more sense in in the Sonic Adventure 2 cutscenes rather than lyrics over talking.
Oh yeah, I mean I wouldn't. But his thing is like you can have lyrics in a song, but the song needs to be like way down there. Like it has to like it's all about fucking sound.
Background music, not foreground music.
Yeah.
That's exactly how Sonic Adventure treats every fucking. It's all on like the same channel.
I've reached the end of my rope, so if unless anyone has anything else to talk about, we might have reached the end of the discussion. We can go. I mean, if we're gonna do that, I will just say my piece on it. I too have nostalgia for this game, and I really do like Sonic Adventure 2 for the same reason as Edwin. I just think the game is shit. And I'm not gonna lie to myself and say it's not. And I want Sonic to be good because I've seen what good Sonic can be. And I've also played like I've 100%ed Sonic 06 in my delusions when I was a child. But like it's like I've seen the depths of depravity. This game is not the worst Sonic game ever made, but it's kind of in the ranking board somewhere. It has tons of issues, but it has a lot of charm to it, and the nostalgia, like I said, the nostalgia factor is mainly what keeps this game alive in most people's memories. But if I was going to give it a score, it would be like a 5 out of 10, like objectively. If I was going to give it how much I enjoy it, it'd be like an 8 out of 10. Just if we're taking like my personal feelings into account, 8 out of 10. But if I'm talking about how like a game should be, and it should be functioning properly, and it has to have good level design and all this other nonsense, then it is average at best, and I would even say that's being pretty generous to it. So I'd give it like a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, given the fact that it's damn near impossible to play, it's very like I would probably give it like a 3 or 4 out of 10. Like it's very low, but it has a lot of good ideas. I do like the Sonic franchise in the sense of like the concept of like the character and the world. Like I said, I like the comics. That was my first introduction to Sonic. This game was just super frustrating to play. I don't see myself ever picking it up again to give it another round. I mean, I've played a lot of other shitty games, and it's just kind of like I wanted it to be good when the idea came to be like, oh, perfect. What's our game of the month? Let's pair it up with the movie and do that. And then it's like playing through it. It's like, oh my god.
I regret everything.
And it's like, well, I didn't know what else to pick, and this just was super topical, and I thought it'd be a nice trip down memory lane, but I was just like, what the fuck was I thinking?
It was a nice trip down memory lane and like a skid down horrible nightmare row.
I would much rather watch the movie than play the game for sure. And
Your other option was Sonic Generations, but we never like decided.
I gave you 3 options. I said Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow the Hedgehog, or Sonic like the latest Sonic X Shadow Generations, and you're like, let's do Sonic Adventure.
Oh, I thought it was
the first
Sonic
time
Generations.
Shadow showed up, so.
Well, I said Sonic X Shadow because the whole point is that I was picking games that primarily feature Shadow because that was the whole point.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I chose poorly. But, that is what it is. It's over. That's all I can say.
It's over.
Right, Edwin, go.
Well, I obviously had no problem with it, like being the game of the month, but uh, I would give it like a 7 out of 10. It's like, yes, it has like a lot of issues, but it was like for its time, it was like it was
See, I
still
want you
it
to
was still one of
consider
my
that for
favorite
a
games.
second. What did you give Metal Gear Solid?
I think I also gave it like a 7. Was
So
it
when
a
you're
7
saying
or
that,
8?
you are saying this game is equal in quality to Metal Gear Solid?
Well, I didn't really enjoy Metal Gear Solid as much as I enjoyed Sonic.
So are you
Like
saying, are you just saying that it's like strictly from like your enjoyment subjectively rather than what the game actually is?
when was Metal Gear Solid? When did Metal Gear Solid come out?
Internet activated.
90s. I couldn't say. Let me see.
Because that's why I went back and retconned my Metal Gear Solid thing, because I was letting my personal feelings get in the way of what I would consider what the game's objective value would be. Yeah, I didn't enjoy Metal Gear that much either, but it's a really good game.
98. Metal Gear Solid was 98.
I was 3 years old.
September 3rd.
Wait, no, we played Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. I played the newer one, the 2004.
And Sonic Adventure 2 is 2001.
That's honestly surprising. I was like, that's like still older, but I guess it's well, no, it's a remake, so I guess that still counts. I was like, this is more. I just see it as like more personality and charm in Sonic Adventure 2 than I'd find in just Metal Gear Solid. But it's like they got faces in Sonic Adventure 2 rather than Metal Gear Solid.
You're not.
I
You're
like
not.
to see their expression.
You're not hearing me though. Like for what I'm saying is that like when I say objectively is like what I think this is as like a piece of art, as like what this is as a product, is when I say objectively what this thing would, what would the average person see this value wise. Subjectively is when I'm throwing all that out the window and is what I feel personally. Like that's like on top of like if I am capable of looking past all its flaws, like you clearly are, and are like enjoying it for different reasons, then yes, you're going to score it higher. That's why I said if I'm throwing out objectivity, I'd give it like an 8 out of 10 because I really like this game despite its flaws. But if I'm going to say, if someone's like, is Sonic Adventure 2 a good game? I'd look at them and be like, are you a really big Sonic fan, first of all? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, can you look past a bunch of bugs and glitches and get used to a really jank game? It's like, no. It's like, well, it's probably average. Like I said, I think giving it a 5 is being generous. I'm more on terms of Corey. I think it's below average in terms of like a game. But that's why I say when like objectively, and that's why I said when I felt bad about giving Metal Gear Solid a lower score, because I wasn't being fair to it, because I was letting a lot of my personal feelings get in the way of like how creative that game was for a PS1 game and all the shit you could do with it. Like I could really appreciate it, despite the fact I would probably never play it again.
So it's like, I think I made this comment before for the actual Sonic Adventure, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 for the movie. Like the cheering and on everything you wouldn't get from the average fan because of the time and like the nostalgia for it. But like I have my own scoring system for games, and like out of the 10, I see like obviously there's audio issues, which is one problem. The other problem is obviously the controls, and then the third problem is the design, mainly for like the physics and gravity and things like that. Everything else is like it's still solid, if in my opinion.
But what you're describing is like a good chunk of the game. That's my point. Like, it's fine if you just want to say it. Like, if you're saying how you score games is subjective, where you're just saying what you feel, that's fine. It's just a subjective score. There's a difference.
Okay, sorry. Now I see what you're saying. So it's like to the average person, I don't know. It was like, yeah, I guess maybe like a five or a six. Like, yeah, there's like a bunch of there are like problems with it, but it's like that depends. Like, how curious are you to get past through all the nonsense to see like the rest of the game? Because like personally, when I see a game like this, like more memorable was when I first started playing Dark Souls. It's like, yeah, I hated the shit out of it because it was an extremely difficult game. But as like a gamer, I wanted to see what the rest of it holds. So I would like go through all the nonsense just to see what the rest of the game had in store. I was like, I'm not gonna buy a game and then like not try and push myself through whatever nonsense. Rather, it was like if it's fair or not, I want to see what the rest of it is. So it's like obviously if you just want to see what it is, then you're not going to get very far and you're not going to like it. But it's like if you really want to see what the better half of a 3D Sonic game is, then you can like go through with this. But it's like this in my personal opinion, this is what Sonic is. Like all the newer stuff, like I mean, I guess Sonic Colors, but that's like it's not entertaining. It doesn't have as many characters, and it has like those little alien things that like never show up again. So it's not as memorable as something like this, because this one, like Sonic Heroes, has the most characters. It shows more of what the Sonic world is, kind of like Sonic X the show. So it's like to me, this Sonic Adventure 2 is what a Sonic game is. This is like the heart and core of what Sonic is. I was like, it's edgy, it's cool, it's funny, it's comedic, things like that. I was like, this game has all of that. Like the newer ones, like as you said, it doesn't have the music. Everyone says like it's kind of dull, it's empty thing. It's not exactly a Sonic game. Like that's why Sonic Generations is like the most popular ones, because it has all the old stuff like Sonic Adventure 2 levels. It has Sonic Adventure, it has all the old levels and everything like that. It's just it's just down memory lane. That's why everyone likes it. That's why everyone holds this one in such high regard for nostalgia or not. So obviously yeah, you're right. It was like a 5 or a 6 for the modern person, but like that depends on how far you want to see what the game is. But for personally, it's a 7. I see a lot of issues with it, but I will look past it every single time to enjoy what is personally the pinnacle of what Sonic really is.
Because I mean, like I can sympathize. I totally understand what you're talking about, because I did the same thing for Sonic 06. Because I had like a Sonic phase in high school where I was all about Sonic. I was all about Shadow, all about Sonic, and I wanted to consume all of Shadow's story, which included, unfortunately, playing all of Sonic 06, which everyone knows how much of a horrible, horrible nightmare that is. And trust me, playing this game compared to that's like playing like the best game ever made. And I played all of Sonic 06. I hated every second of it, but I pushed through it because I wanted to see the rest of like Shadow's story and how it related to him in that game. But I would always warn people away from Sonic 06. Like, never play that game. It's terrible. Because, I mean, like I said, just for example, you and me have good memories of it, so we played through this and we breezed through it. Meanwhile, Corey's over here pulling his hair out, trying to get through the fucking Rouge mission in 2.5 hours because he hates the game so damn much because of how clunky it is.
Yeah, but he's also had that exact same problem with Elden Ring, and he still pushed through. But
but Elden Ring's hard because it's designed to be hard. This game is designed to be like a platformer. It's just coded like shit. It's hard because of how the game is, not because of what it is. It wasn't designed to be this difficult. Most of your deaths are because the game is breaking or not operating appropriately how it's supposed to. That's what I mean about mastering the jank. I'm just trying to point out the difference, why the average person would not look at this game and see an 8 out of 10. You're seeing an 8 out of 10 because of the memories. Because like I said, that's what I would score it personally myself if I was just saying my personal feelings were about the issue, not about what the actual content of the game is, you know? That's all I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean, it was like I think still at this point, this was still. I mean, that is still meant for like a kid to try and play. So I don't. I mean, I don't know. It was like I played this on the Dreamcast. I played the much more inferior version when I first started. So I mean, I don't know. I can't remember that far behind. I just remember that I still had trouble with it, but I still enjoyed it for the most part. It was I played the original version. It had the most jank in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I can't compare like the jank then and the jank now.
All right, Corey. I know you're chomping at the bit. Corey, did it cut out on him as soon as you started talking?
No, there was a lot of things that were cutting out in general from the conversation. I think my connection is just kind of pissy.
Oh, okay.
But what was the question?
No, I said go ahead. Me and Edwin are done our discussion about how to score fictional, video game hobbies and how scoring systems work. And I was going to say, I'm sure you're chomping at the bit because you want to shit all over the game.
No, yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, like a 3 or a 4 out of 10 because it's I don't know, the game itself is just borderline unplayable, right? When you look at games that came out in 2001, you have Silent Hill 2, Halo, Devil May Cry, Final Fantasy X, Jack and Daxter. Like these are big games that you could go pick up and enjoy playing. I don't see myself picking Sonic Adventure Battle 2 up and playing
Mm-hmm.
again anytime soon. Yeah. But Jordan, do you have any
So I have not played it that much, but I did watch the entire part of the hero side, and then some of the bad side, or whatever they call it, dark side. I don't know how you call it, but based on what I was going through with it, I would say, with me, objectively, if anybody was to touch this, I really don't think that they would have enjoyed it as much, unless you had a really connection. Like, for instance, if you really enjoy the art style of the Sonic franchise, or you just have played some games in the past and it's been a really big fandom of yours and you just don't want to, throw down anything on that. If it's a brand new person, based on the sound and design that's going on, like we're hearing there's muffling sounds because everything is being just blurred over by a bunch of music and lyrics is involved. There are a lot of things that don't work with the connections of your character being able to hit other bosses or monsters and stuff, and then continuing on through without falling off the cliff. Just rapidly stops. It just kind of throws off the flow of movement that's going on, and then just the awkward weirdness of, like I said, I didn't even pay attention to the story because it was just weird as shit how everything was just playing out. So for me, I would definitely say a 3.5 or a 4 for that game if it was going to be that I wasn't having anything personally involved. But subjectively, I would probably give it a 7 just because it was funny to me. I find terrible things is funny. Me and Corey have kind of a history with watching horrible movies and laughing at it and just having a fun time with it just because of how stupid things can be. And then when I'm watching these things and then, people are cutting each other off during mid-sentence, that's funny as shit to me. So I enjoy that a lot. The music, again, it was funny to me is that, when they're trying to say things, it's blurred over with the music. That was a good thing for this one, particularly in favor for me, because a lot of these levels had great music, and it was I was actually happy not to have to hear Sonic or somebody having to say shit while they're playing the game, so I can just focus on the music and play the game at the same time. So it's kind of helping me out while I'm playing, because that's how I will play games sometimes, is I'll just literally play music while I play my video game. So this one actually having good music for you was already a plus in my book. And then, of course, having the character designs, again, I like that they had Knuckles in it. Shadow was pretty cool. So you're being able to have all that play up to your side while you're playing the game, it all definitely kind of helped it out a bit. But again, that's on me personally. For actual people stepping outside of it, would probably be a lot lower. So yeah, I'd say 7 for myself. For people to play the game, 3 or 4 would be probably the best bet on the game.
And yeah, with that, I think that just about wraps it, unless anyone has any last things to say about it. Otherwise, Jordan can probably just take us out.
All right.
Go
Well,
watch the movie.
yeah. All right. Well, I wanted to thank Udon for this episode, definitely running us through it and getting us everything that we needed to know about the movie, as well as the gameplay, and just walking us specifically of what entails a good video game, especially if it is bad, what kind of things you can pull out of it to make it a good experience. So thank you for that. And with that, I guess we'll be wrapping it up. So be sure to follow us on Spotify, Twitter, and the YouTube channel to be notified of new episodes. Rate us 5 stars if you enjoyed today's episode, and don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel. And for all you gamers out there, just remember to keep exploring, keep playing, and keep listening. Until next time, this is Mediocre Brothers Podcast signing off. Thanks for listening.
I got the master plan.
Live and learn.
Gotta go fast.
Hey, this is Corey, and thanks for checking out Mediocre Rumble Brothers. If you liked the video, please drop a like, and if you didn't, that's fine too. If you'd like us to talk about any specific games, drop a comment below, or feel free to discuss your experience with the games that we mentioned in the episode. You can also listen to our episodes prior to YouTube on our Spotify. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you again soon.